shall we begin?
Yeah.
Go ahead and call the Firefighter Pension Board meeting to order for Tuesday, December 3rd. First item is a citizens open forum. Anyone? Seeing none, we'll go to the first item on the agenda. Approve the minutes from the September 24 meeting. Need a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as
That's nice,
presented.
yeah.
I second it.
Any discussion or questions? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Okay. Next item is the quarterly plan investment report.
Okay, Jeremy Langley from the League of Cities is usually here, however, he could not make this meeting. So I'll go ahead and just kind of go over the highlights of the report. For the quarter began with a balance of $6.8 million. We brought in $145,000 worth of contributions. Our earnings totaled about $44,000, and the distributions are typical, the scheduled distributions for about $13,671. Plan expenses totaled $7,066, with the ending balance for the plan is $7,012,228.79. For the year, however, we started out with about $6.4 million. We had contributions coming into the plan on a cash basis about $343,000, $64,000 of which were actually for the prior year. So when you see the financial statements for 18-19, it won't reflect the full 343. It'll reflect, the actual number that's attributed to the year. Investment earnings for the year totaled about $358,000. Beneficiary distributions were $54,686. Plan expenses $40,231, with an ending plan balance of $7,012,229. So overall, we had about the investment returns were up about 5.4% over the fiscal year, and if we look at the calendar year to date, it's about 14.76, as you'll see in the statements that are attached. This is a little bit short of our assumed return rate of 7%. However, this shouldn't have too much of an impact on our contribution rate because the actuary uses a long-term perspective and smoothing technique for calculating the contribution rate. In the quarter and the year, this is from Jeremy, there were a lot of, the news was the same with trade tensions that dominated the headlines and also dominated as a main market mover. This is one of the most volatile years that we had seen in many years. The Fed rate cuts did help to continue economic and market growth for the quarter. The October statement, we recently sent that out, but it was not included in this packet. We had a strong month of investment returns of about $78,000, ending just short of $7.1 million. Okay, if you have any questions.
The one I had is on the quarterly statement. It looks like you guys paid quite a bit more at the end. Was that just to?
Yeah, that was
Sort out.
the annual square-up payment. That is usually made to kind of make up for the partial year that we don't have the updated valuation or contribution rates, and also if there's any shortfall in the premium tax money. That's kind of typical.
Any other questions or discussions?
What was the rate of return now year-to-date from the October statement?
For the October statement?
I was trying to look it up on my
Yeah,
phone
we don't
because I
have the
didn't have it
investment
here in the packet.
valuation. I can get that to you. I can calculate that. Added that.
It should be in this document you sent out though, right? Okay. I was just curious, but.
Okay, next item is the budget report for fiscal year end 9/30/19.
Okay. Okay, so the budget report, this is just showing how we did according to, in comparison with our administrative budget that's adopted, it's a statutory requirement. Our expenses came in pretty much as expected, about $40,231 total. We didn't have any categories that exceeded the budget, so overall, we did positive results.
So This is kind of the legislature imposed an additional disclosure requirement, it's about 3 years ago now at this point.
Yep.
So first is you had to adopt a proposed budget, which essentially is, the pension board telling the public, this is what we think we're going to spend next fiscal year. And then the bookend of that is what you have here is the final accounting, right? So you kind of have both pieces. This is what we think we're going to spend during the year. And then at the end of the fiscal year, we publish or we disclose, this is what we actually spent. So you have that here, it's $40,231 for your actual expenses. So just if the board is comfortable with that, then a motion would be in order to approve the final accounting, and then the city can go ahead and post that as part of its disclosures, required disclosures.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented for the final accounting.
I'll second.
Any discussion or questions? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So adopted. Next item is the firefighter supplemental compensation trust fund distribution.
Okay, well, for the first time that I can remember, we didn't have one.
That's right.
So,
There was no supplemental distribution this year.
right. In the last packet, we presented the significant variation letter, and that did indicate that it was possible we would not get a distribution, and we did not.
Still not much explanation as to why those are all going down or
Do you
changing.
have anything, Pedro?
No, we've been asking. We still haven't really gotten a very clear answer. So, no, I don't know. It's their little black box. The state doesn't really give too much information on
Yeah, they
on
don't
how
have any.
how this is all calculated and allocated, and but unfortunately it's not unique to Oldsmar. I mean, there's no firefighter pensions got the supplemental this year.
The first time for the fund, isn't it?
I mean, it's the first time in at least 16, 17 years that I know of.
Okay, thank you. So next item is approving the FMPTF invoice for the actuarial letter of no impact for the firefighter cancer presumption bill.
Okay, this invoice is for the letter that was included in the previous agenda, and it is something that's required to be prepared, and it just documents the fact that the statutory cancer presumption bill they do not expect it to have an effect on our contribution rates. We questioned why, because some other of the plans had experienced different results, and it was mostly due to the demographics of our population. We have a pretty young, overall, a young population on the plan. So that was, the actuary just determined that we wouldn't have an impact.
Okay.
Yeah, the new cancer presumption, it really, and some actuaries have quantified it with a very, very small impact. So, I think it's like 0.02% of payroll ultimately. And it's really just because they're trying to be overly conservative really and build in some sort of cost impact. But presumably there's not going to be the only impact to the plan, it's not as though there's going to be more disabilities. It's really only the difference between, the delta between a service-connected disability and a non-service-connected disability. So a service-connected disability or a line-of-duty disability has a bit of a higher benefit. So it's really just the delta between those two forms of benefit, which is fairly negligible. So just kind of, and I'm by no means smart enough to be the actuary to figure this out, but just from my conversations with them, they're just trying to build in, they don't have enough data to really know if they have to change the assumptions, because they say, well, now because of this new presumption, we're getting more disability applications than we would have otherwise. So they're just, and the only way they're going to be able to know that to a statistically relevant form is to actually have a couple years of experience. So they'll know in 5 years, okay, we've had an increase in disabilities, we've had a decrease in disabilities, whatever the case may be. So that at that point, they can really evaluate whether or not they should be changing their assumption for incidence of disability. But from now till then, they figure just building in a minor cushion, it's only gonna help ultimately to the benefit of the plan anyway, and to the sponsor, so that there's not potentially a huge shot in the arm 5 years from now where there's this cost that was kind of going unrealized. But SAS has said that there's no impact, so.
Okay, so the total invoices were $337.50. And we need we have not paid this invoice, so we would need the board to approve this.
Okay. I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve payment of the invoice for $337.
I second it.
Okay. Any questions or discussions? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Approved. Next item is approving the reimbursement for John Hill for attending the conference.
Okay, as we discussed at the last meeting, Mr. Hill attended the Firefighter Pension Trustee Conference in Orlando on October 29th through October 31st. Total expenses, including the hotel stay and all the meals, were $551.35. According to the Firefighter Pension Board's travel policy, Chairperson Renee Neiman has approved these expenses and they have been paid. So this is being presented for the board's approval. It has been paid though.
So it's just ratification.
Right. Okay.
So a motion would be in order to ratify payment of the reimbursement request.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? How was the conference, John?
It was good, yeah. It was, learned a couple things, as far as requirements for, training. They say it's, per term, I think it was told it had to be like once a year, or every 2 years. Now, if we have a 4-year term, theoretically, it's once per term, 4 years, so.
There's no real, and we've talked about it, there's no real hard and fast rule. The statute's fairly ambiguous in the sense that it just requires continuing education, but it doesn't specify who, what, when, where, how. So, generally, and so this is all under the kind of umbrella of your fiduciary responsibility to the plan. So it's really left to the board's kind of discretion as to what the continuing education requirement means. Generally, we like to see maybe once a year, not once a term, but we have the once a term is kind of another very common approach, let's say, taken by a lot of boards.
I would think that, a minimum of every 2 years would probably be adequate, but, because it is usually, repetitive on,
Right.
the following year before, so a lot of, repeat information, but some new, so
Right.
it's worth going to, yeah. I'd recommend people should go at least every couple of years. I don't know about every year, but save the city some money.
All right, thank you. Next item is presenting the 2020 meeting schedule. So these are coordinated through Pedro's office and Ann. Anything stick out as problematic right now? Okay, so that's just information.
So if I think in the past, I don't know if it's been through, it doesn't have to be a formal motion, but maybe just board consensus, just so we have it
Okay.
to adopt the meeting schedule for 2020. You could obviously always change the meeting dates, but
Okay. Just, we have
I mean, if
agreement.
everybody's okay with it, then we can
Yeah.
just record it as board consensus to meeting dates were approved.
Acceptable to me.
And next item is excusing the absence of Mr. Knapp from the 9/24 meeting.
So pursuant to the board's policy, trustee attendance policy, Unexcused absences carry consequences. So we have as part of your policy that the board can excuse absences at its discretion. So that's why you guys have this here.
Yeah, so the city was notified, so I would go ahead and make a motion to excuse the absence. Anybody would like to
Go
second?
ahead and make the motion.
I'll second it.
Question? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Or excused?
Thank you. Yeah, sometimes work, I definitely didn't plan that day out that well. You get wrapped up in some things that you just can't get out of
Happens.
It
fast
happens.
enough.
Yeah.
It happened that day.
You're not
But
gonna,
I blocked this day out way, it's like nothing could deter me.
you would think the enormous salary that we pay you here would sway your decision.
No, just
Motivate
immediately.
you.
All right, next item is attorney update.
Okay, so really nothing too much to update you guys on. Just a couple things to go over. For our newest trustee, I think I already answered this question, but did you complete the Form 1, which is the form that we have to
I
file?
did it previously, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, I just wanted to make sure, because I didn't see you at the last meeting, so I just wanted to make sure. I think they told me you had, so.
Yeah.
Along that same thought process, so this is kind of my annual primer, this being the holiday season, the gift-giving season. I did just want to take this opportunity to remind you of your obligations under the state ethics rules, since by virtue of your service on this board, you are technically considered a public official, and therefore subject to state ethics laws. So, just to really go over, I know you're very familiar with them, but if you are given something, anything of value, regardless of the value, that you believe is being given to you in some way, shape, or form to influence your decisions on this board, you should obviously reject that. If you're given something that's valued at $25 or less, you can accept that, and there is no reporting requirement either on your end or on the person, company, entity who gave you the gift. If it's valued between $25 and $100, it must be reported by the gift giver. So the person, company, entity who gives you the gift has to file a form with the State Ethics Commission. I gave trustee so-and-so this gift on such and such a date. It's valued at whatever it is, $75. There is no reporting requirement on your end as the recipient, and you can accept the gift. If the gift is valued at $100 or more, you should reject the gift or donate the gift. And you should also disclose it to the State Ethics Commission. Does that make sense to everybody? Mm-hmm. Okay. That being said, we do have our holiday gifts that we do give to our trustees, to our clients. They are valued at less than $25, so we will not be reporting it. You do not have to report it either. It's tough to find a gift under $25 that's actually meaningful, so we try and go practical over substance. So it's a golf size umbrella, but it's kind of the smaller handle, so it's not as cumbersome. It's not as big. It works well. So I have those in the back. Just remind me to give them to you before. Every time I walk in with that huge bag into one of these places, I always get worried I'm going to get tackled by somebody. Legislatively, session this year does start sooner. It starts in January. I haven't, obviously it's a little bit early. Still, usually bills will start kind of making their way now. After Thanksgiving break, they'll start getting pre-filed. I haven't really heard of anything through the rumor mill or grapevine, any kind of legislation that would affect public pensions, which is, in my opinion, it's a good thing. So it seems as though we may make it out this year kind of unscathed. But obviously, by your March meeting, we'll have a really good idea as to what, if anything, is there, and we can report. But as of now, the only thing that I've really heard of, and it's just rumblings, I don't think it's going to go anywhere, is if you guys recall that. So the firefighter cancer presumption bill that was just enacted last year, that had been in the works. That had been in the works probably for about 9 years or so. But really, in the last 2 or 3 years, it started getting a lot of momentum. And it was originally for police officers and firefighters and correctional officers. Something happened where the correctional officers got removed from the language in the bill. And so the police officer unions, I forget if it was the PBA or the FOP, but whatever labor body was kind of the strongest proponent of it, really pulled their support once the correctional officers got removed. So then therefore the cops got removed also. So the only thing I've heard is that the police officers may be reintroducing that for the police officers and the correctional officers, but again, it wouldn't affect us, but just more informational. Okay.
Any dates for the next spring state session?
So yes, educational opportunities. The FPPTA has their conference coming up. It's in Orlando. It's January 26th through the 29th. That's their winter school. Again, if anybody has a chance to go, it's it's a good conference. It's very well attended. It's usually about 500 or 600 trustees who are kind of in your same position. So it's a good opportunity to maybe, just pick their brain and see what's working, what's not, what maybe they're running into issues that we are or are not, but possibly we may. So if anybody's interested in going, obviously you can look into that. I don't know how, do we make arrangements ourselves? I mean, do you guys make it yourself and then you get reimbursed or?
Typically,
Okay. So if anybody needs any information, I mean, I'm happy to send you guys the links or whatever it is. It's the Florida Public Pension Trustees Association, FPPTA. And I think the
Yeah.
website is fppta.org, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
You said that was the 26th to the 29th of January?
I'm gonna double check really quickly, but I'm almost positive. No, I don't have internet, so don't worry about it. I got kicked off. I was on there before. But it's the 26th to the 29th. And then the state also puts on a school, the Division of Retirement. It's the state agency that's charged with oversight of municipal pensions here in Florida. They also put on a school in the spring. It's up in Tallahassee, so it's a little bit challenging to get in and out of it. But if anybody's interested, they haven't announced the dates yet. It's usually mid to late May. They'll wait until FSU's spring semester has ended. And obviously legislative session will have ended too, so they kind of wait for Tallahassee to clear out a little bit. But I'll let you guys know when they post the dates. It should be coming out with the dates probably in the next month or so.
Okay.
So that's another opportunity. There's a small registration fee for that one. I think it's $175,
Yeah, it's not
$180. It's not very much. But again, it's Ash Williams, who's in charge of the State Board of Administration. He usually does a presentation. He does a very good job. He's a bright guy. And then obviously if anything's happened legislatively, it's a good opportunity to kind of get it from the horse's mouth proverbially. But that's really it. That's all I have.
Okay. Any other items of interest, discussion?
I have a question on that last one. What's the difference between the two seminars or conferences?
It's a good question. So the FPPTA has a lot more topics that it covers. It kind of, drills down into a lot more specifics. So it has courses really on probably anything you want. It'll have courses on just fixed income, or it'll have courses on private equity or specific actuarial assumptions and things like that. Whereas the school in Tallahassee, it's broader strokes in terms of the actual presentation and courses. There's not as much variety, if you will, and then also just attendance-wise, the school that the state puts on, it's usually 150 or so, maybe 120. Bless you. Trustees, whereas obviously the FPPTA, it's 500, 600 folks. There aren't, the FPPTA, I don't know if you saw it, there's usually kind of I forget what they call it, but where all the vendors have a hall and they kind of exhibit, booths and things like that, and they're giving out, little promotional materials, and the state school doesn't have that. It doesn't have any kind of, advertising. So I'm a speaker at the state school, and, you can't even put the name of your firm or the letterhead. I mean, obviously they'll have it as your title, but in any materials that you hand out, they don't want any kind of promotional aspect to it. So it's a lot more, you know, scholarly. I don't know if that's the right word or not, but
High level.
academic maybe. But that's a little that's you know that's not entirely true, because again, the FPPTA has really good courses and a lot of very excellent speakers. It's just a broader array.
Anything else?
Okay.
Need a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Oh, is that a
Any-
record?
I think so. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Okay. Thank you very much.
Much faster,